Hi, Melanie. Thank you so much for joining me in this podcast episode. Really appreciate it. How are you today?
Oh, I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me. I'm looking forward to this.
Yeah, pleasure is mine. I'm super excited to learn more about you and your journey, how you started your business you have right now. So, yeah, I'd love to know how everything got started. What was your purpose to starting a business in the first place? Like, you always wanted to do business, or like you made a shift from a corporate world?
Yeah, so I started out my life. I worked a lot in the restaurant industry, so in the service business. And then when I was about 25, I got married, started having kids, and I was a stay-at-home mom for many years. Um, but I always kind of had an entrepreneurial type heart. My husband had his own businesses. He was a custom home builder, and so I helped out a little bit with that. And so my first foray into entrepreneurship really was opening my own cafe.
Mm,
So I did that for about a year, undercapitalized and probably not so much experience in marketing. And so we ended up closing that. So I would say maybe that was my first big quote unquote failure at entrepreneurship, but I learned so much. I loved it. I never really thought of it as a failure, just a great experience in learning. And then I got into the real estate business. And for 13 years, actually, my anniversary of starting real estate was 13 years ago, just this last week. And that taught me a lot about business ownership and entrepreneurship. And in 2016, I was at, I would say maybe the height of my success as far as sales in real estate. I was diagnosed with breast cancer, a form of breast cancer it was stage 3 triple negative breast cancer,
wow.
which is it's non-hormone induced. It's a pretty aggressive form of breast cancer. And so that kind of put a halt to everything that year. Um, and what I just knew instinctively throughout that diagnosis, I took with me afterwards and decided to go into creating my own life coaching business.
Right.
And
Yeah.
what the instinctive part was when I was diagnosed, I really just kind of looked at it as an adventure. And my mindset was this is a journey in my life. My life is a journey. Life is 50-50. I'm not guaranteed happiness and love and success. And this is the 50% that I get to decide how I'm going to show up for my life.
Mm,
And that was what I decided that, all right, this is my adventure. I'm going to live in the moments. I'm going to, um, we create our own suffering when we resist and when we tell ourselves something shouldn't be happening. That's when we really create our own suffering. And my chemo days, I called them my spa days because it was actually quite lovely. When you focus on the things that you want to focus on, that you choose to focus on, it makes your experience so
yeah.
much better in
Yeah.
life. And, I had people waiting on me and taking care of me, and nobody was bothering me about business when I was just sitting in my chair taking my chemo. And so it was a long year. And then on the other side, it was almost like coming out sort of shell shocked, like, oof, okay, now we're done. Now what?
Yeah.
And so it took me a little bit of time um, to be Googling things. I knew I didn't want therapy. Um, I knew I didn't need therapy. That wasn't necessarily the path. And then I found life coaching, which is something I had never heard of before this. And it answered all the lingering questions that were in my mind and gave me all the tools to, to really start a new life for myself, really, and live a whole different life, a whole different emotional experience of life than I was before cancer.
Wow. So, like, how long you have to fight through with this cancer? Like, since you found out and going through the medication and treatment?
I'm sorry, I missed the first part of your question.
Yeah, like how long you had to fight through the cancer,
Oh,
going
sure.
through since you got diagnosed and from like going for like a chemo and everything.
Yes. So Well, I'll back up even a little bit. I had felt a lump and I dismissed it. I think I was just glossing over it. Oh, this isn't, this isn't a thing. This isn't a problem. And then it started growing and growing and becoming actually painful. So finally in April of 2016 was when I finally made an appointment. I went in, went through. It was really a very fast process for me. The
Mm,
hospital that I went through was amazing. So it was really only a matter of a couple weeks before I started. They got me started on chemo. So I did 5 months of chemo, weekly chemo, and then I had surgery. So my path was they wanted to shrink the tumor
yeah.
and then have surgery and see what happens. So then I had surgery in October of that year, and they said I had a complete response to the chemo, which was amazing. However, they still wanted to do radiation, and that's often the case, just to zap any micro, tiny micro pieces of cancer that have spread. I'm very layman's terms here. And then so I went through 25 rounds of radiation, which is 5 weeks of daily radiation with weekends off. So it was December 23rd of 2016 when I was actually done through all the treatment that they were going to give me for that. And then there was monitoring and
Yeah.
follow up for a few years.
Yeah, interesting journey like you had. So what was your mindset like during the process? I know like when you've been told you get chronic illness, well, like a dangerous illness, because I diagnosed with IBD, inflammatory bowel disease, and I
Mhm.
was bleeding through my bowel. So I'm going through the process 6 months, like I'm not 100% yet, like going through a lot of medication, a
Mm.
lot of treatment. So it's not easy journey for accepting it, like what you've been through. Like obviously you have question like why me, or like how long it's going to be, what's the future look like. So
Mhm.
what was your mindset during the process of like you going through like a chemo or like accepting the illness you have?
Mhm. Yeah, I think really, I think my husband was actually very helpful in the very beginning. I said something to him, like, "Oh, wow." Like when I came out of the biopsy appointment, and he's like,
Mm,
"No, this is very serious." I came out, and I said, "Oh, I just really thought this was something I was going to need to take care of." And he said, "Well, it is. It's just something we're going to need to, we're going to need to take care of." And I'm like, you're right. This is just another thing that, we didn't plan for. Life is always unexpected.
yeah.
Um, so part of my mindset was I didn't really go to the why me or anything like that, because it was more like, well, why not me? What would make me different than anyone else who has ever
Mhm.
been diagnosed with something? And I think I was really able to separate out, although I didn't understand it at the time. Now I understand with the way my mind was doing this, but separating out that this was a circumstance. It was neither a good thing or a bad thing. It was a thing in my life. And then I got to choose how I wanted to approach it. And I just approached it with the mindset, like I said, the mindset of, okay, this is the next part of my journey. This is an adventure. I wonder what new thing is going to pop up next, because having probably trying different medications and
Yeah.
seeing all the side effects and all the things coming up, like, um it's not necessarily enjoying it, but it's like, okay, I'm open to it. I'm open to accepting that this is where I'm at right now. And life is 50-50. We're supposed to have struggle in our lives, and that was mine at the time. And so there was a lot of that, a lot of acceptance, I think, just acceptance. This is where I'm at. I really only had a couple, like, dark breakdowns, I'll call them, moments of where I just dissolved in fear and sorrow. And that lasted, I processed through it. It lasted a few hours one afternoon. Um, I was just like, oh my gosh, this could be the end. This could be it. And I spent that afternoon, I cried and cried and cried and processed and took a nap. And when I woke up, I decided, okay, um, it possibly could be, but I want to go ahead and live my life anyway. I want to live my life the way I've been living it. And it really kicked off my journey because that was the night we had a comedy show planned. It was a charity comedy show put on by my brokerage. And I'm like, I'm going to go. And my husband's like, what are you, wait, what? You want to go to the comedy thing? I said, yes, I want to go. I want to go have some laughs. I want to be around the people that I love and I care about. I'm not going to bartend. I was supposed to be a bartender. I'm like, I'm not going to bartend, but I'm going to go and hang out with people. And so it was really more of a mindset of being present in the moments of my life and making peace with worst case scenario. Didn't mean I wanted worst case scenario or that's the outcome I wanted, but making peace that it was possible,
Yeah.
that it could go that direction. So that allowed me to be much more present in my life and not suffer through all the treatments and the side effects and the what ifs and the uncertainty
Mm.
of
Yeah, so
everything.
you basically focus on like a things you can control, and which way you can't control, just let it be, and focus on the present moment, like you're taking it like a
Mhm,
one day at a time. Like obviously you've seen the outcome, like what could be wrong and everything, the side
mhm,
effect, or what's the chemo doesn't work out. Like you
mhm.
know, like all things, and you know, like if it doesn't, then doesn't. Like I don't have to worry about it right now. I just need to focus on what is working and what do I have right now in the present moment. And
Yes.
yeah, a lot of people like going through them kind of illnesses, they can't take that, especially with me. I can't really take that. It's get really, really hard with me because I've been on a steroid medication and it imbalance my all my hormones and level and everything. So going through
Mhm,
kind of the moment is not always easy. Sometimes I ruminate, what if this, that? And in the
mhm.
present moment, I'm all right. Like I don't have any illness or anything like that. But thinking about it, the anxiety makes me really, really fatigued and excessive worrying. So those things like I'm trying to work on myself and I'm seeing like a great results last couple of months and slowly getting there. But in times like a few months back, 4 or 5 months back, it was really, really worrying. Like I wouldn't get out of my bed, feel like the world is ended. I don't feel like I'm going to be living anymore. The side effects are going to kill me. I if I got headache, I feel like I got brain tumor. If I got side pain, I feel like it's something my kidneys failure. So things like that is actually bothersome. So moving forward, like you coming out of like from cancer and get cured from it, and right now starting a business and motivating and starting the career all over again. How did you get the motivation and the encouragement, like moving forward with your life?
Oh, yeah, that's so good. I wanna take you back to a moment, though, before we move on,
Sure.
because you mentioned laying there. There was a moment during my treatments, I was laying in my bed, and I was so fatigued. I was so sick from the chemo, like,
Mm.
nauseous and sick, and I couldn't even move. I had to, like, crawl if I wanted to go to the bathroom, or, I like, it made me dizzy to even like read or watch TV or anything, but I also couldn't sleep. So I was just
Yeah.
laying there in bed and I was looking out my window and I had a second floor bedroom and I'm watching the trees blowing in the wind. It was summertime. And it like occurred to me that this is the moment I'm in and it's actually not better in a different moment. And so before I was diagnosed, I was I said I was at the height of like success in my real
Yeah.
estate career, but inside I was burning out. I was crying in my car. I was just an emotional wreck. I was ready to pack it in my business. And I was thinking to that back to that moment and I'm like, "Wait, that moment's not better than this moment. There's going to be struggle. And when I'm done with cancer, it's not gonna be better there either because it's still always gonna be 50-50." So I just wanted to share that little piece of that
Yeah.
story with you, just reminding ourselves that it's not always better from before, like, and then there's not always better after because there's always things, and it's all in how we decide to look at it. It really is, and allow the emotions to be there, like that anxiety, allowing it
Mm.
and in your body and to be there, understanding you're creating it by the way you're thinking about it, and that's okay, but it might give you some relief to process through that and see if there is a different way that you can think about it. Um,
Yeah.
so
So
back to your
yeah.
yeah, yeah. So back to your actual question, I was just when I found the tools that I learned through life coaching, I changed everything about my emotional experience of my life, about my ideas for what was possible for me in my life. So just everything about the way who I was really changed. Even though through cancer, it's like instinctively I followed that, but before I was not living that way. Before I was in victim and things were terrible and I was at the effect of all the people's emotions around me and everything like that. So after cancer, when I found life coaching, that gave me the inspiration and the motivation that, oh my gosh, this is life changing stuff. And I need to share this gift that I've gotten with the world. And so I remember that every day as I created my life coaching business, at 50, well, I'm 53 now. So 3 years ago, I started my life coaching business and just reminding myself every day there's women out there who were suffering like I was
Yeah.
emotionally, or not believing that there's a way out of their career or their relationship or whatever it is, their job. um, and just knowing that a little piece of what I can share with them today could help someone. So that helps me to just keep going. And, as you're building a business, it takes time and it's not perfect. And when we're in a hurry for things to be different, it feels terrible. There's where the struggle. Like if we're in a hurry to be done with our cancer treatments, we're going to suffer through it.
Mm.
If we're in a hurry to make our business become the business we want it to be eventually, we're not enjoying the
The
moments as we're
process. Yeah.
building it. Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So true. And like it's a great inspiration, like starting your business at age 50, it's not easy, like overcoming like the illnesses you had, like all of the side effects and everything. It's not easy things to do. And obviously a lot of people age 40, age 35, they don't want to start their career. They're probably not happy with their job or like the business they're running. They needed to make get the shift. But it's something like, oh, I'm 40 years old, I'm 45 years old, I'm 50, it's too late. Right now, it's not worth that
Mhm.
take the risk. So do you think like you still feel young, age 53 right now?
Oh, very much so. I'm like, I have at least, I don't know, 40, 50 more years maybe.
Yeah.
And I get to make the most of them. I may have one day and I get to make the most of it. And that doesn't mean I have to go, go, go. Like maybe my one day I'm like, yeah, I'll take a nap on the couch and watch some Netflix because I choose to, not because I'm trying to avoid my life. Right.
Yeah.
But just knowing like, just allowing for that uncertainty of whether I have one day, one week, you know, one decade left or 50 more years. Um, Knowing that when you're you mentioned 35, 40 years old, it's like, oh, you guys, you're just babies. And I tell my kids because I have grown children and they're, figuring out what they're doing with their lives. And I'm like, you guys, you're gonna change your mind. You don't, it's not like my grandparents would probably stay in the same job for 50 years and then they retire and that was it. It's a whole different world. Like you get to go out and experiment and I know I'm always going to be a life coach, but my business may look different. It may like right now I work one to one, one on one, and I do some groups and things. Um, but it could very much change and evolve, and we're always evolving and reinventing ourselves. And when we embrace that and look at it as a big adventure, life is one big adventure, then you can make decisions from that place rather than fear. And the fear will come up. It's okay to have fear. It's healthy fear, but you decide. I was just working on this recently with my people that I help about feeling it in your body. Like you'll immediately feel some fear, but is it the fear you want to block you from doing a thing? Is it just the normal fear of your brain telling you you're doing something different and
Mm.
it's scary? Or is it really a fear that, like there is really a danger out there? And usually it's just our brains telling us, "Oh no, that seems scary, that's new, that's different. Keep doing the same thing." Even if you're miserable, our brains think it's okay. Like our brains want to keep us doing the same thing, be comfortable in our misery even when we know I know I could be happier. I know I'm miserable here, but I'm afraid to make that change. Um, that's just your brain keeping you safe and
Yeah,
comfortable in your own misery.
yeah, totally. And yeah, Melanie, so we're coming to the end of this podcast. So I'd love to know like what will be like a one piece of advice you can give, like whoever wants to go for like their dreams or starting a business.
Mhm. Learn to really allow your emotions and embrace uncertainty. Like we're so afraid to feel any discomfort. Even if we're in misery, if we're in discomfort, we're afraid to feel any new discomfort, which comes with pursuing your dreams. You're going to feel um, doubtful, inadequate, embarrassed sometimes, unsure of yourself. Embrace that. And that doesn't mean that you can't still go after what you want. We don't have to get rid of the fear in order to do the thing we want. We just get to feel it and bring it along for the ride. Let it ride shotgun.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. So before we end of this podcast, where's the best place to find you if anyone wants to know more about you, your journey?
Sure. You can find me at Melanie McNamara Coaching on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. Melanie McNamara, sorry, MelanieMcNamara.com is my website. And yeah, I'd love to connect with anyone. Anyone can follow me and I'd love to help.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing those. So yeah, I wish you best of luck with your personal life and your career. I hope you have a wonderful year ahead of you. And yeah, thanks for coming today for joining me this podcast.
Thanks for having me.
You're the most
Bye-bye.
welcome. Thank you. So up, guys, thank you so much for listening to this podcast episode. I hope you guys enjoyed it and got some value from our podcast episode. And if you know how to find Melanie, go visit her website and reach out to her. Also, she's available on social media platforms. So until then, I'll talk to you in the next episode. Take care.